Good morning, and I'm delighted to welcome all of you to Riddle Hall for the conference as part of our event to mark 15 years of policing reform in Northern Ireland. When Jane was introducing us as Anne and George, I was reminded of the famous 5 books. I think Anne and George were in that, but not quite sure we've reached that dizzy height yet, but I must go back and read them just in case. As Jane outlined, we had a very successful seminar last night. It really was brilliant. I know many of you were there, but I won't repeat what Jane said, but it was a very, very positive, upbeat night. And thank you to all who contributed and added to that. We also had 3 very young ministers, which didn't make me feel at all good. Whenever they said 15 years ago, I was only 15. It was a bit of a wake-up call, but it was lovely. It was lovely to see how the 3 ministers had a very shared view on how we should move forward, and that is a great positive on which we build. It is important to take time to reflect on what has been achieved, and as we were reminded last night, we should be appreciative of what has been achieved and be proud of what has been done in the last 15 years, because so often we concentrate on what hasn't been done, and the Chief Constable will know that from working with me and with the board. We're always looking for something to be done in a better way. But last night was good because we did look back and we said, here are the positives, here are the really good things about policing in Northern Ireland. But of course, there are still things to be done, and none of us can afford to be complacent. So the policing journey continues. And today we want to redirect our focus for the future and to look at the challenges that we are going to be facing over the next few years. Challenges for the policing board as well as for the police, and to look at how do we best serve our community and provide an effective service for the public into the future, because we can be rest assured 15 years ago policing looked very different, and in 15 years time it will probably look very different again. It is important that our policing structures are robust enough to be able to deliver for future decades. And we also want to ensure that they are the right structures in a very, very ever-increasing changing landscape. The lay of the land at Stormont has changed considerably too, and since the board and the PSNI were established. And for the first time, policing has been devolved locally, and that brings opportunities to look at things differently and to work differently. We've talked a lot about collaboration in the past. It's a great word. If you've been around as long as I have, you've heard it probably in every job you've ever done. But I don't think people really have stopped to think about what that means and what it actually means for the people who have to do that. But now we've got a real mandate to do it through the new programme for government. There is a strength in that programme and a focus on collaboration and outcomes. And I think this presents a significant challenge for all of us. And it looks at a way of how we might change our public sector agencies and challenges on how we've traditionally worked and delivered. Resources are reduced across the public sector, we know that, and we don't have the luxury of pursuing issues on our own anymore. Last night we had a question around, should the police say no? Well, I think God help them if they ever did. But it's a very good question, because are there services which are best delivered by other agencies? And are there services which we should be delivering together? So it really is time to think very differently and to actually start acting differently. As a society, we've also changed dramatically even in the last 15 years. And in making plans, we need to move forward and ensure that we meet societal needs and that the demands of the public and the community are met. But for policing, there are still the same calls as there always have been. Last night, one of our speakers talked about empathy, but in actual fact, to empathise, you have to understand. And I think what came out last night very clearly was that perhaps we haven't been very good at communicating to the public what the changes in policing are. We had a bit of a discussion around policing with the community and what that meant. But the people will still ask for neighbourhood policing, and they will still want to see police on the street, and they will still complain about their police stations being closed. But it's up to us together to show that there are new demands on policing now that simply didn't exist 15 years ago. For example, the growing levels of crime that are perpetrated online are actually quite shocking. And the growing sophistication of scams are major areas of concern. And it's up to us to convince the public. It doesn't matter if you have 25 police officers on your street. They can't do very much about the person sitting in Hong Kong or wherever and scamming you or raiding your bank account. Crime and criminals can now enter the safety and security of our lives without ever leaving their own homes. And these are areas that affect every single one of us, and they don't discriminate, and they don't look to see where you live or who you are or anything else, as long as they can take something from you. So even that prompts us to look at how we work as a police service and how we work together, and we do have to think differently. Increases in crimes that impact on the most vulnerable in our community are also growing. And the solution for dealing with this vulnerability is one that needs a very cohesive partnership approach. And I no doubt we will pick that up when we get to the second session. There's a lot to do here, but now is actually the time to make it happen. The issues police are faced with are so much more than just a policing problem, as we discussed last night. And they are very much intertwined with the work of other departments, such as health, education, probation. And this is where we want to focus our attention today. Making interventions to improve the social well-being of our society is a central theme in the Executive's new plan for the time ahead. So our challenge is to look at what we can change and to get together to deliver the best service for the public. Over the last number of months, the Board and the PSNI have been having discussions around this, and we have been looking at the pressures arising from dealing with vulnerability. It is a key issue for PSNI and ourselves. And it is very, very clear that we have to look at things very differently and work differently. And we will also, without doubt, require a much more creative approach to how we use and share our resources. Back at the Board, we are also developing our own corporate plan as an organisation, and that will set out the Board priorities for the year ahead, and obviously that will work hand in hand with the updating of the policing plan for the next year. So inputs and outputs from today will be very valuable in helping us to shape our thinking as we move ahead. Of course, as the Chief Constable keeps telling us, we're operating in a very different financial position than we were, and that is true. And we can't afford any longer not to work together. We need to look at how we can make best use of our resources. I'm really looking forward to listening to the inputs from our expert range of speakers today. Certainly last night's were superb. I have no doubt today's will be the same. We hope to stimulate thinking and provide space for considering what we can do in a different way and how we work together. So I want to thank you all for making the effort to come along today. And I want to pass back to Jane Gordon, and I hope you enjoy the conference, and I look forward to hearing from all of you later. Thank you.